Today, Mike Ybarra wants you to prove you're a man by tongue-kissing a computer fridge. This is CheckPoint. Welcome to CheckPoint. I hope after our society crumbles that a plucky little Pokemon tries to rebuild it from the ashes.
Is that what Pokopia is about?
What's a Pokopia? Fortnite. It's the biggest success. Everyone wants to be Fortnite. Call of Duty? That's Fortnite now. PUBG? Smells like Fortnite. Even Magic the Gathering isn't free from Fortniteification. Everyone is chasing the epic success of Epic Games, who made an estimated $6 billion in revenue last year. But even Epic just laid off 1,000 people. So what are we even doing here? In a memo to the company, tree enthusiast Tim Sweeney wrote, quote, "The downturn in Fortnite engagement that started in 2025 means we're spending significantly more than we're making, and we have to make major cuts to keep the company funded." Even if we assume some grotesque salaries, 5,000 employees shouldn't be tipping the scales over multiple billions, let alone 6 of them. Let's also remember they just raised the price of V-Bucks. Maybe Epic's repeated bear-poking litigation has something to do with their coffers. Or rather, per the memo, quote, "Some of our challenges are unique to Epic," says Area Man, trying to find the guy who did this. It's been worryingly easy over the last several years to become inured to the industry's frequent layoffs, but such a massive number at Epic of all places is bone-chilling. Here are your possible results as an employee of the video games industry. If you don't make a game, you lose your job. If you were making a game, but then an executive decides you have to stop making that game, you lose your job. If you do make a game, but the game isn't successful, you lose your job. If you make a game and it is successful, you lose your job. If you make a game so successful that you've warped the entire industry to follow in your footsteps, you and 999 other people still lose your jobs. I recommend you simply not do it. And now what? Epic's 4,000 remaining employees are expected to keep making Fortnite like they have been after losing a fifth of their workforce? Sweeney's memo says they are only in the early stages of returning to mobile and optimizing Fortnite for the world's billions of smartphones, which sounds like something you need people to do. Fortnite gameplay producer Robbie Williams didn't lose his job, but he was just as blindsided as those who did and wrote on Twitter, quote, "What comes next is very hard and painful. All our teams will have to pick up the pieces and try to keep moving forward, but we cannot even fully understand what kind of impacts this will have on the game for the rest of the year and likely beyond. An atypically candid view into how layoffs of this Richter scale can cause far more harm to a company than it does any good." A former Epic staffer counted among the layoffs told CheckPoint directly that those laid off are some of the best humans I've ever met, while any off-record comments they may have made will remain so. But hey, this week, the scouts from Peak come to Fortnite in a new and unsettling long form. Hey, here's a fun tidbit. Buying the basic Peak Scout Fortnite skin will cost you more than twice as much as buying Peak. So just buy yourself Peak, and then buy it for a friend, and then buy a chocolate bar to share with that friend, and we can all tell Tim Sweeney to fuck off and go live in his woods.
Japanese jewelry brand You Treasure is now making made-to-order Pokemon engagement rings and wedding bands, where you can customize the gemstone, the inscription, and even add a cute silhouette of a Pokemon to make your Pokemon engagement ring truly one of a kind. And I have a few concerns. Listen, I know catching them all is fun, but actually getting engaged to a Pokemon is a full-time commitment. With just capturing a Pokemon, you can let it out of its ball from time to time for enrichment, but if you don't let your fiancé roam around in a park on a regular basis, your parents are going to start asking weird questions. For some of you, this little PSA won't concern you, but for others, you have been keeping your puppy girls in dire situations, so just take this as a reminder, okay? Plus, there's the whole hiss-gronk criteria that you need to take into account. You don't know what that is? Online, it's referred to as the Harkness test, but since I have no idea what Doctor Who is, I just call it hiss-gronk. To put it succinctly, you can only hump Pokemon who speak the English language, so that's Meowth, and maybe also Mewtwo if you like psychics with fat thighs. If you're unclear on why this would be popular, you're in luck. There is a fantastic team of speculative anthropologists doing rigorous work documenting thousands of human Pokemon interactions over at the peer-reviewed website AO3. If all else fails, you could probably offer one of these rings to a real human in exchange for marriage, but I don't know, that'd be kinda weird.
Former Blizzard president and current totally not a sports gambling app Prize Picks CEO Mike Ybarra blazed his glory on X the Everything app in a reply to Crimson Desert's official account, where he did what generations of philosophers have failed to do, define masculinity. The epistemological coup came when Crimson Desert's account posted an apology for the inclusion of generative AI content in their finished game and for their failure to disclose the use of generative AI during development. They claimed the assets in question were placeholders, which you can choose to believe or not, and if you do, whether or not that explanation is acceptable. Ybarra replied, writing, "Why apologize? AI in one form or another will be in every single video game. And I don't get why devs feel the need to bend over for the few folks who can't accept the reality that AI will be in every single thing from video games to your fridge, parenthetical, it already is." He concluded the post with, "Man up," here exhorting a formulation of masculinity that requires you to meekly submit and buy things you don't want or need that will harm you or others. This is the masculinity that late capitalism finds most useful because consequences don't exist until next quarter. The actual last line of the post is the timestamp, which reveals that this was made at 8:04 a.m. on a Sunday. And it's really that combination that makes this otherwise laughable post actually very funny. So, what is masculinity? Is it found in integrity, accountability, courage, and sacrifice? Is it scrolling for 4 minutes after your alarm goes off on Sunday to sit on your nutsack online? Wonder no longer. Masculinity is when your fridge is a computer that can't do math.
Have you heard of Dragon Quest X? Nelson hadn't. Turns out Square Enix made an MMORPG back in 2012, but exclusively released it in Japan until this week's beta patch to the game when they introduced an AI chatbot to the game!
Wait, so does the rest of the world get to play it too?
Not at all.
Okay, because the way that you said it...
Silence?
Mm-hmm.
In a recent press event covered by Japanese newspaper Sankai, DQX director Takashi Anzai lets us know that new players won't feel lonely wondering where to start playing. It will become their own personal companion. Because clearly adding AI to stuff makes it more clear and easy to understand and keeps all of us from feeling too lonely. Square's disinformation machine will take the form of an adorable slime, the game's most iconic monster, and will be powered by Google Gemini. Chatty Slimey, as they've decided to name it, will apparently analyze what's happening in the game along with answering direct questions and, quote, may initiate conversation when a powerful enemy is defeated or a rare item is obtained. Look, this is already an online game, so I'm sure parents of young Dragon Quest X players have their settings figured out, but I get a visceral feeling of dread between the phrases powered by Google and may initiate conversation. How far away are we from Chatty Slimey needing a Surgeon General's warning to anyone experiencing symptoms of depression? No word yet on if Chatty Slimey will produce anything worse than racist Fortnite Darth Vader, or if Square Enix would even move that swiftly to stop it. Speaking of AI, you've been playing Marathon, so do you think Chatty Slimey would fit into the pantheon of AI faction leaders?
No, I think if a slime AI showed up at Tau Ceti, Vulcan would order it to be shot and Nona would try to eat it, but not before Gantry would just shriek and squish it.
I don't even know why I asked. It's not like you know anything about the things I talk about. Coming up, demographic data has shown that 62% of US-based Final Fantasy VII Rebirth players are over 35, which means the third installment should have Sid pitching reverse mortgages and boner pills.
Beej and I wrote the stories that we read. Cameron wrote the Mike Ybarra Crimson Desert story, and Nelson wrote the Dragon Quest story, obviously. But
because he couldn't go anywhere near the Tim Sweeney story because he was just so fucking disappointed.
Exactly. So that's the thing. Is last week Nelson wrote the story about the Tim Sweeney like being a like forestry conservationist in his spare time, which is like a cool thing to do for a
laudable.
guy. For a guy who otherwise sucks, right? It's very much to me. This is the like heartbreaking worst person you know just made a great point kind of thing. And Nelson was not as familiar with Tim Sweeney because we did a bunch of reporting on Epic v Apple and stuff before Cameron and Nelson came on board to do the writing. And so I was like, just so you know, like CheckPoint the show doesn't have like a glowing feeling towards Tim Sweeney. Less so now, but it was I couldn't find a way to work this line in, but it was what
last week
you said while we were discussing this week's was last week Nelson wrote a story not knowing who Tim Sweeney is. This week he will never forget who Tim Sweeney is.
It's a land of contrast, CheckPoint is.
Yeah.
It's a real dichotomy that we present to the audience. It's like, on the one hand, forest conservation. On the other hand, 1,000 people have lost their jobs for what looks like no reason at all.
And seemingly at random. Like, there's been a lot of comments about who got let go and, like, senior people who've been there for a while. And people are like, why them? Why those people? Why that person? Why that person? This doesn't make sense. And then, from, like, the game director who's still there being like, I don't know how we recover from this. Like, how do we move forward with like these specific holes in our thing? And then just this morning, we didn't have time to loop it in, but there was a PC Gamer article that was like, Tim Sweeney says like, look out games industry. These are some of the best, greatest people that are now, available for hiring. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like then why didn't you keep them employed yourself?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, unless what you're saying tacitly is that the people who we kept are so much better than the people we let go, except the people we let go are so much better than everybody who's currently working for you. And I'm like, that's a real backhanded compliment, like, and a real thumb in the eye to everybody involved.
Currently employed by Epic. Recently employed by Epic, the rest of the industry.
I guess is what you're
order.
saying.
Yeah.
But it did make me think that you let 1,000 people go like that, and we've never considered the ramifications of this, is that when you're a big company and you let a whole bunch of people go, you have also said, God, I hope they don't end up in the same industry we're in, because they're going to have a fucking axe to grind for the rest of their life about this. And if you want to ask yourself, hey, why aren't there more people coming on putting their games on Epic Game Stores? I don't know, Tim. You keep firing all of them, and they're not that interested in giving you their games to sell at that point.
I saw an article from, I think it was Game Developer, that was talking about Epic has been like, I was gonna say quietly that they've been like quietly acquiring other studios. Not really quietly, because when they do it, they make a big deal about it. They're like, hey, look at us, we acquired these people. But like Mediatonic, who made Fall Guys, Psyonix, who made Rocket League, Harmonix, who made like Rock Band and everything. Epic's acquired all of them. And then if you ask them, as Game Developer tried to do, hey, what's the status of Mediatonic? What's the status of Harmonix? You get very nondescript not answers, and it really sounds like, hey, we've acquired Harmonix, and then we've just sort of like squished it and dissolved those people across the rest of Epic, and also let a lot of them go.
Yeah.
I just don't understand
IP
why.
acquisition, right? Like that's it just starts to feel like it's like we're not doing an acqui-hire where we're like, oh, we're trying to get good people into the company. It's like, no, what we're trying to do is keep anybody else from making a video game that might compete with something we want to do.
The only positive thing from that memo from Tim Sweeney, if you believe him, but it's like none of these layoffs have anything to do with AI. Right. Just sort of heading off the like, we are not firing people to replace them with AI.
Right.
Because
if you believe him.
Yeah. Because, as has been shown, the AI actually can't replace people.
Yeah.
We're very clear on that now. I mean, some of us were clear on it from the beginning, but other people are now learning.
Yeah. Some people were just too deep in the grift.
Yeah.
Well.
Anyway, and then like in the US, I think he said that there's some number of months of severance based on how long you've been employed, and then still like 6 months of health coverage or something. It almost seems like it'd be more economical to just keep them employed, but what do I know? We didn't do another story about it this week, but NVIDIA is still like muddying the waters in trying to explain what DLSS 5 is or does.
Okay.
Because there was that breakdown where someone asked an NVIDIA spokesman directly and essentially confirmed that it really is just putting a like visual filter on over afterwards.
Right.
Because DLSS has always been a post-processing thing.
Right.
But NVIDIA, separate from that, is still like really quadrupling down on this, like, they keep saying at the geometry level, which is like lies, but like they keep saying no, it's not just a filter, and everyone's like, but it looks like a filter, and I don't see how this technology would work if it wasn't a filter. And anyway, like, again, they're like, also, it's totally optional, it's completely optional, nobody has to use it. And a bunch of developers are like, yeah, totally optional, like all the other DLSS things totally were, except they're not.
Right.
Because if someone has an NVIDIA card, you're going to turn this stuff on, and then people are going to be like, why doesn't this new DLSS thing work with your game?
Right.
Except, I mean, in this case, the vast majority of video gamers that I saw online were like, yo, this looks
I
ugly
don't really
as crap,
want this.
dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it feels like we're, I don't know. I don't want to say we're at the tipping point, but it feels like we're making a final ascent.
Yeah. People
Sora shut down, so that's. I mean, not because that's only because like OpenAI is like, oh wait, people don't actually like this or use this.
Yeah.
But we're getting there.
Yeah. Hold the line.
Hopefully. And what better place to hold that line than patreon.com/loadingreadyrun? That doesn't work as a segue.
Your investment into our Patreon is what makes the difference between us being able to process other people's news stories and bring them back to you in the same way.
With our own brains. There you go.
And sometimes some jokes.
You're supporting human-created work. Yeah. Here's a little look behind the curtain, which you may have noticed. Sometimes we do stories with explicit jokes. And sometimes, like Epic laying off 1,000 people, it's tough to like joke about, so we just write the story to sound funny. Like using funny words and turns of phrases, but not actually joking about it, because I don't want to joke about 1,000 people losing their jobs.
Fair. Yeah.
But I want to deliver the news in an entertaining way.
Yeah, whereas I definitely want to spend my Wednesday nights joking about the different ways people can get married to Pokemon. That is a lot of fun for me.
I didn't realize that was called the Harkness test.
Yeah.
I guess that's just whether or not Captain Jack would have sex with them.
Yes. Yeah. That came up explicitly during a thing where it's like, hey, can I romance this alien? And it's like, well, I mean, when we think about it in this way, and then people create a whole thing and called it that test. And I'm sure Doctor Who never did, but yeah.
I assume it's just, is this alien capable of giving you what you understand to be explicit consent? In which case, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then go ahead.
And otherwise,
But I remembered it as Hiss Gronk.
Good old Hiss Gronk. He was a football player, wasn't he?
Yeah. Played for the Steelers, I think. Yes.
Good old Hiss Gronk.
Go hit up the store at loadingreadyrun.com, and anybody who backs this channel, you're going to see your names imminently.
Thanks for watching, everybody. See you later. Checkpoint. Point. Yep.